The war in Sri Lanka has spanned for almost 3 decades, with periods of ceasefire and relative peace. These periods of peace sadly failed one after the other, resulting in the present conflict situation. It is important for us to understand how this ethnic conflict escalated into an all-out war. A group of civil society representatives recently discussed and evaluated Sri Lanka's past peace processes and the way forward.
Sri Lanka has a history of peace talks between the government and the LTTE, extending back to Thimphu in 1985. The parties last met in Geneva in February 2006 under the Rajapaksa government, to only once again part ways due to a lack of consensus. Today, the conflict has escalated into a full-blown war. However, it is an indisputable fact that a lasting solution requires a political solution. Thus, it is important to evaluate past Sri Lankan peace processes and examine the pitfalls for future reference. A group of civil society activists and politicians came together recently with this view in mind. They delved into lessons learned from past negotiations and focused on overcoming these failures. Representatives of civil society organizations, various stakeholders and politicians participated in the discussion organized by the Foundation for Coexistence.
And the War for Peace strategy, as you know, eventually led to its very collapse. The War for Peace strategy collapsed with the military debacles which the government faced in Mullaitivu, Elephant Pass, and as well as the attack on Katunayaka, whilst all other presidents talked about weakening the LTT and bringing them to the negotiating table. This is the first time you have an articulate expression of defeating and crushing the LTT. What is then the answer to that?
The panelists presented views about peace processes from the Tamil perspective, the Muslim perspective, the human rights dimension, and a citizen's perspective.
I'm not for a moment saying that the LTTE has done nothing wrong. I know a lot of Sinhalese people think that the LTTE is obdurate, that the LTTE is intransigent, that they are guilty of a great deal of brinkmanship. Perhaps they are justified in thinking so. But when they have to deal with the state that is not prepared to accommodate them in any way, can one expect them to be any different?
So I think when we look at the past peace processes, while I fully subscribe to the view that in the period up to 1987, much of the fault lies with successive Sinhalese dominated governments, I think following 1987, you see a sea change. And you see a relentless march of insincerity on the part of a group that, by virtue of violence to the Tamil community, also entrenched itself as ostensibly the sole representatives. It is the duty of those who believe that a democratic pluralistic dispensation is essential to promote those forces within the government, and I believe there are several, who want to go forward into a decent constitutional future. And for that reason, I would say that this is a very crucial moment.
All have what I would call a pathological aversion to admit that the Muslim community is an important stakeholder who should be accommodated in the substantive talks process. I would treat the Indo-Lanka Accord and the 13th Amendment as a watershed in ethnic politics in this country. and equally a betrayal of the Muslim political dimension.
One can go on with the catalogue of all the horrendous things that have taken place in terms of a culture of impunity. Nothing is being done to begin to address the simple fact of one community, and in particular, not exclusively, but one community in particular being singled out from vicious attempts at collective punishment like the eviction and that infamous bus ride, to what must surely be areas of historic habitation. So the human rights dimension to the peace process is absolutely integral. It's not an optional extra. You can't duck it.
We say that civil society has to participate. It becomes imperative, and they are important actors in all of this. We don't say that all of them have to be at the head table. They cannot be, and they need not be. But all of them play their roles in their own respective spheres of influence. And a peace process is one that provides for structures and mechanisms that enable the members of civil society, such as what we discussed, teachers, religious leaders, just the general public, be part of those structures.
It is a crucial moment for the country. There is skepticism from either side of the ethnic divide over the sincerity and commitment of one another towards finding a genuine political solution to the conflict. Such interactions between civil society and the political sphere may appear meaningless to some, but they do serve a purpose. They challenge mindsets and call for collective change, which is what is necessary at the moment.
From the map.
Now that we understand the country's war situation a little bit more, why don't we take a step forward and work towards a lasting peace? If you have any comments about the show, please write to me at nowarzone@yartv.net. Thank you for watching. Until next week, you take care.